Hey guys, today I can finally show you some Taken King material instead of just talking about it. And so today we're going to be going over the 3 new subclasses that are coming with the Taken King. This first video is going to be on the Titan because, as we all know, they are the best, and throughout the day I will cover the other 2. Now I've learned that a lot of this stuff has been revealed here and there already, so that kind of ruins the surprise, but that ain't gonna stop me from going over the subclasses and talking about my thoughts on all of them. So the name of the Solar Titan subclass is the Sunbreaker. Now before I go forward, I just want to mention that literally all of this is subject to change. This list is in no way final and is only what was shown at E3. There's a ton of wiggle room in between now and release. I only had access to maybe 30% of each subclass as well, so there's still a little ambiguity. I'm going to go over all the subclass abilities first, then we'll talk about builds. Your grenades will seem familiar. We have Fusion Grenade and Incendiary Grenade, which operate the same way as the Sunsinger and Gunslinger versions. Well, at the very least, the Fusion Grenade does, and the Incendiary Grenade has the same description. But we have a new grenade called the Match Grenade. What the Match Grenade does is explodes on impact, then shoots a line of fire forward, sort of like Shockwave or Razor's Edge. Overall, it's a pretty solid grenade. I don't know if I'll make it my primary grenade just yet for PvE. Fusion Grenade still seems to be a little bit better for that kind of burst damage that you're looking for. Your jumps are the same: increased height, increased control, and catapult. Nothing new, but I really didn't expect anything dramatically different, nor was I expecting any sort of blink capabilities for the Titan. The new super is called Hammer of Soul, where you generate a hammer and can repeatedly throw said hammer. The hammer explodes on impact and will regenerate in your hand. You do not have to go pick it up again. You can just keep on flinging them as long as your super is active. In PvP, a hammer deals about 260 damage, which is a one-shot against pretty much everything. If you're close enough to a target, you will just melee the target instead, just bashing the hell out of it. The options for bonuses are the following: High Noon, where the higher your health is, the more hammers you can throw and the bigger their impact, which I assume to mean damage. Next we have Sun Charge, where hitting R1 launches you forward a pretty far distance, and if you come into contact with anything, you're just gonna annihilate it. However, this does take up a significant portion of your super energy. It's not something that's really spammable. You'll get 2, maybe 3 lunges, so you really gotta make them count. The last bonus is Conflagration, where you create sunspots where your Hammer of Soul impacts. My assumption is that these sunspots cause damage over time if enemies stand in them, but I don't know for sure just yet. The melee ability is called Sunstrike, where you ignite your enemies with a heavy strike. Melting Point makes it so that the target you meleeed with Sunstrike takes more damage from both you and your allies. That's a really good PvE bonus. Fulminator is where your Sunstrike melee explodes, igniting enemies within the blast radius, and kills create a sunspot around you. I don't know how the sunspot creation works exactly. It's still a little bit unclear if only the melee itself will trigger a sunspot, or if something dies in the explosion, or both. I also don't know the damage or the radius of the explosion, as I did not have access to it. Finally, Stoke the Forge natively reduces the cooldown of Sunstrike, and getting a kill with Sunstrike instantly recharges it. Next, you have Titan Codex 1 through 6. These are just the stat options that you have on any other subclass. No real differences here from what's in the game right now, nor do I expect these to change. Fleet Fire is where enemies that are brought down by your fire grant you bonus agility and reload speed for a short time, stacking 3 times. I've been told that this is literal fire, as in your fire abilities, and not gunfire. Tempering is where your grenade and melee abilities cool down faster when you have Hammer of Soul ready, aka when you're supercharged. Wreathed in Flames is where Hammer of Soul lasts longer, and you gain an overshield when you're standing near a sunspot. In the last column, we have Flame Seeker, where your Hammers of Soul will alter their flight path to seek out targets. That's pretty nice. Cauterize is where you regenerate your health when you kill something with your fire. Once again, fire abilities, not gunfire. And finally, we have Wildfire, where enemies that are brought down by your hammer explode, catching any enemies in the blast radius on fire. So what are some potential builds? Well, first let's look at some abilities that might have synergy with other abilities. For example, Conflagration has synergy with anything with sunspots, so Wreathed in Flames, Fulminator, and sort of indirectly with Cauterize and Wildfire. Cauterize and Tempering have good, keeping you alive synergy. Alright, now let's talk about builds. PvE first. I think something like Fusion Grenade, Conflagration, Melting Point, Tempering, and Wildfire is a good start for an offensive build. I really like Melting Point because it's more support style, although if you didn't want to be a support, you'd probably go Fulminator for more damage. I'm not 100% sold on Tempering just yet because supers are supposed to be something you want to use a lot, so it depends on the regeneration rate. Pretty much anything in that column is gonna be good. Wreathed in Flames has that synergy with Conflagration, but for PvE, you're probably not gonna need to worry too much about your health unless you put yourself in a really dumb spot. Wildfire is basically the offensive option in that last column, whereas Cauterize is more defensive based and works a little bit better with Tempering. I did never feel too comfortable playing a Hunter because of their lack of defensive options though, so Cauterize might end up being a pretty good option overall anyway. PvP builds are a little more focused on sunspots, so once again, Conflagration, Wreathed in Flames, Cauterize. Wreathed in Flames gives you a longer lasting Hammer of Soul too, which is great, and Cauterize is basically Hungering Blade for Sunbreaker Titans, assuming it works with Hammer of Soul, which I would imagine it does because hammers do solar damage, aka fire. You could grab something like Sun Charge, but like I said, it does eat up a ton of super energy right now, at least based on what we've seen of all the trailers and stuff, but of course that is subject to change. Overall, this is a really fun subclass. I did only get to use it for PvP because that is all I was able to play, but that does not make it any less fun. Titans are finally getting a super that lets them become the Slayer, a duration-based super instead of a one-time use kind of thing. The hitboxes are pretty big for the hammers. They do kill in one hammer in PvP under normal circumstances, and it does last a pretty long time. I imagine we'll see a lot of Flameseeker use depending on how strong of a guidance it gives. If it's really strong, I can see super long-range Sunbreaker Titans being really tough to deal with. It is really fun to use, but it's still subject to those poorly timed activations, much like any other Slayer-style super is subject to. Its PvE capabilities are still up in the air. Defender Titan is just so good in PvE right now that if you only have one Titan in your group, they're probably going to be a Defender Titan. But if you have more than one Titan, Sunbreaker is going to be really good for dishing out damage from a safe place. It's very much an offensive-based subclass, but Melting Point can bring a benefit as an offensive support ability, essentially giving your team a damage boost on a high-priority target. You hit something big and tough with that Melting Point, and it'll go down a little bit easier, which can be quite useful. That is what I have for you guys on the Sunbreaker Titan. The other two subclasses, Stormcaller and Nightstalker, are coming very soon, along with some more goodies from my time with the Taken King. I do want to stream soon, and I just want to, chat with you guys about the Taken King stuff in general, so look out for that soon as well. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next subclass video.